I am. Yeah, and after I saw you at a meeting, it was a year ago, and full follow up. Yeah, she really likes it. Hi. Oh, yeah? Are you running it? So we're good, yeah. That's a chance. I doubt it, but there's a chance.
Oh, I have done Friday before because that's the date of when it was done. Yes, yes.
I've made that mistake a couple times.
Oh, just said
Or had I just love that you've got.
I know. I like it. I'm very happy. I know. I was like there. Like how many years?
All right, now you got a big head.
What?
So now you got a big head over there.
Yeah, I know. I'm like no more compliments.
Of course, individual preference. Just like, roll it right in there. That never stopped me. Roll it right in. Long as I was alone. Where were the grandkids? Because wait a minute. I love that question. That is so. Oh yeah. That is so useful. Yeah. It's warm. It's warm. It's the weather.
We're going to get started in just a moment here if people want to take a seat. All right. The Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 meeting of the Eden Prairie City Council is now called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, those that are in attendance, for coming out on this cold Tuesday evening. Not as cold as it was this morning, however. We were just talking, my Comcast indoor thermometer, as well as matching my car, was 19 below up on Pioneer Trail. So I'm assuming most of Eden Prairie was similar. That's getting pretty much down there in the thermometer range. All right. It's typical this time of the evening of our meeting for me to read an open podium invitation. Open podium is an opportunity for Eden Prairie residents to address the City Council on issues related to Eden Prairie City government. These sessions, these open podium times, occur prior to each regular council meeting. The regular council meetings typically occur the first and third Tuesday of each month. The open podiums occur from 6:30 to 6:55 here in the council chamber. If you wish to speak at open podium, please do contact the city manager's office at 952-949-8412 by noon of the meeting date with your name, phone number, and subject matter so we can be better prepared for you. Open podium is not recorded or televised. If you have questions about open podium, please contact the city manager's office. Mr. Getcho, anything? I'll let you introduce the Martin Luther King Jr. Day proclamation, and then I will read it.
Thank you, Mayor. Something that the city has done as long as I can remember, more than a decade, is to proclaim Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And as is the custom, a proclamation is prepared for you to read. And there's no other action besides that or any other presentation, but it's simply a proclamation recognizing the city's commitment to equal rights.
Great. And just to let people know as well, we do have 6 standing commissions. One of them is the Human Rights and Diversity Commission, which is incredibly supportive of this proclamation this evening. And we met with them, in fact, during workshop this evening, along with the Sustainability Commission. So I will read the proclamation. Proclamation, City of Eden Prairie, Hennepin County, Minnesota, whereas the City of Eden Prairie's City Council and Human Rights and Diversity Commission sponsors the Black History Month Words in Action Contest and the Human Rights Award Program, recognizing those who work to create an inclusive community spirit through their actions, activities, and programs. And whereas the City of Eden Prairie recognizes that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream and dedicated his life to helping freedom exist for all people through his commitment to human rights and his nonviolent philosophy. And whereas the City of Eden Prairie reaffirms its commitment to fostering diversity in our community through the Eden Prairie Manifesto. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Eden Prairie hereby proclaims 2025 as a year to celebrate human rights and diversity and asks all residents to continue their commitment and concern for equal rights for all persons, to dedicate themselves to helping those who do not yet share in that freedom, and to join the City of Eden Prairie in recognizing and celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. Ronald A. Case, Mayor, on behalf of council members Kathy Nelson, Mark Freiberg, PG Narayan, and Lisa Toomey. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda is the approval of agenda and other items. Council, is there anything else that you wish to come before the council tonight to be on the agenda? Probably under council member reports if you had something. Nothing? I will entertain a motion then to approve the agenda as in our packet.
Move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Moving on, we have the minutes from the January 7th meeting. We have minutes from both the workshop and the council meeting. Council, any edits, corrections, things you want to call out, concerns you had about the minutes? If not, is there a motion that we could approve both the workshop and the meeting that evening?
Move to approve the following city council minutes. City council workshop held Tuesday, January 7, 2025. City council meeting held Tuesday, January 7, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Moving on to the consent calendar, for those of you who might be a little bit new to our council process, this is where we clump together items that are really important. They just don't they don't need or require further conversation, discussion. However, council, you may pull any of these items if you wish to learn more about them. We could even vote on them separately. Are there any concerns among the items A through K on the consent calendar? If not, is there a motion then to approve items A through K on the consent calendar?
I move to approve items A to K on the consent calendar.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. All right, this evening we have two really important items. One is a public hearing on the Marshall Gardens, which I believe is the largest residential piece of property yet to develop in the city. So it's exciting for us to be here this evening. If sometimes development is also accompanied by loss of the open space and people have concerns, but nonetheless it's private land. And from a development standpoint, there certainly is a positivity and excitement to it. And then we also have the adoption of bids, which is a pretty big deal for our city complex here, renovation. So, Mr. Getchell, I'll turn it over to you for the introduction to the public hearing this evening.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and council members. You're correct, Mayor. This is a over 32-acre site in southwest Eden Prairie, scheduled to be developed for residential use. Currently, the property located at 9905 Dell Road is a single-family dwelling, agricultural buildings, farmland, and private open space. As you will hear tonight, the proposal is to approve a development of 15 single-family lots and 100-unit multifamily stacked townhomes. First, because the council spent a bit of time on this project and it's been discussed for a while, we would like to provide a little bit of a staff update. So our Community Development Director and Public Works Director have a little bit of information to share. And then, as is very typical, the development applicant will also have a presentation and an overview of the project. And then the staff and development team can answer any questions that you may have prior to holding a public hearing, if that's okay.
Perfect.
All right, thank you. Julie?
Julie, Robert?
Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to provide a brief overview of the project as it stands today. Robert and I have a few slides that we'd like to share with you. As we start this conversation, I want to give a general overview of the project. As Rick mentioned, you've seen it at workshop a couple of times. Planning Commission has reviewed it. There have been some modifications to the plan between Planning Commission and City Council review, and then Robert will answer some questions or provide some information on traffic. So the development plan as it sits today includes the extension of Crestwood Terrace east and west through the property, and on the north side of that public street there are 15 single-family homes that are proposed, and on the south side of that public street are what appear to be 4 standalone multifamily buildings that would provide a total of 100 multifamily units. Those are stacked townhomes that would be available for sale, as are the single-family homes. All of them are ownership units within the project. You'll see up in the corner, there is a community garden area. There are 2 outlots that are also providing ponding areas, and then there's a large outlot on the southern portion of the project that would be deeded to the city that would preserve and maintain that bluff and open space where the creek runs through that property. Between Planning Commission and City Council review, there, as I said, there have been a couple of changes. Those most notable changes are those single-family homes on the north side shifting more to the west. So what Planning Commission saw included a residential unit tight up against the Crestwood Terrace connection into the neighborhood to the north. As you can see now, there's an outlot area in order to provide more distance between the existing homes and the proposed homes. And that outlot would be maintained and owned by the homeowners association, and you'll see later on that there's a significant amount of landscaping that has been added to that area. In addition, shifting these easternmost lots to more of an angle for that footprint provides more of a distance between the existing homes to the north. And what the developer and Planning Commission heard were some concerns about the new homes and the existing homes basically looking right into each other's windows. This design prevents that from happening. Another change since Planning Commission is a reduction in the size of the community gardens. So these community gardens have been reduced by about 2/3 of the size that the Planning Commission saw, and would now be available only to the homeowners within the project area. So loud and clear at the Planning Commission, there was concern about a lot of incoming traffic to the neighborhood because of opening up those community gardens. So by restructuring the use of that area answers that question as well. And with that redesign that I've just outlined, it also reduces the number of lot width and lot area waivers significantly with that new design on the north side of that roadway. This is a quick snapshot of the landscaping plan. As you can see along that north boundary, particularly on the east side, there is a significant amount of landscaping that has been added in order to provide more of that buffer and transition area between the existing neighborhood and the new neighborhood to be built to the south. As well, there's landscaping interspersed throughout the entire project area, but that was a significant concern and comment that was shared at the Planning Commission.
Mayor, City Council, I'm going to go over a little bit of the traffic information. There were a few comments that were brought up during the neighborhood meetings and some comments that have come in since this item was scheduled for tonight. So to spend a little bit of time, when you take a look at this development, Marshall Gardens, there's 100 units of multifamily, and there's 15 units of single family. And so on a daily basis, that generates just under 900 trips in and out of the site over the course of a 24-hour period. And as we assign the disbursement of those trips, you take a look at this map here, and I've tried to highlight that 25% of that traffic in and out of the development would come off of Dell Road and Flying Cloud. 15% is coming off Crestwood Terrace, heading up towards Pioneer Trail. There's 10% coming off Stable Path, and the remaining 50% is on Dell Road North going through the Pioneer Trail intersection. Now, when you overlay those 900 new trips in and out on top of the existing traffic that is out there on the roadway network today, and then you can see what the difference is in the added traffic. So the orange indicates what the traffic is today. The blue is what it would be with this development approved, and then the green just shows the increase. So of the 900 trips from Marshall Garden, they have two ways in and out of the neighborhood. They can go over to Dell Road through Crestwood Terrace, or they could go up north to La Ferre Drive. This is, the traffic breakdown is about 80% is going directly out to Dell Road, and 20% of those 900 trips are going north to La Ferre. So when you superimpose that traffic on Crestwood Terrace, for example, to the west, you see that that goes from 100 vehicles per day today to 235 post-development. So it adds 135 vehicles per day. Likewise, at Stable Path, there's an increase of 90 vehicles. And then Dell Road to the north, 450 as you're approaching Pioneer Trail. Dell Road to the south has 225 vehicles. Now, if you want to take a little bit closer look, of those 175 vehicles, the 20% that are heading north to La Ferre, 50 of those vehicles we expect to use Geisler Road. So that would increase from 250 trips per day to 300. There would be 50 on Jonathan Lane. So again, that increases from 300 to 350. And then La Ferre picks up 75. So it goes from 300 trips per day to 375. And to put that in context, if you were to look at all of Dell Road, starting at Highway 62 on the Minnetonka border all the way down to Flying Cloud Drive, I've included those daily trips. So Highway 62 to Valley View Road, 3,200 vehicles per day. From Valley View to the TC&W Railroad Bridge, 3,100 vehicles per day. From the bridge to Highway 5 is the highest section with 8,800 vehicles per day. From Highway 5 to 212, it drops down to 6,500 vehicles per day. Then the next section, which would be near Bear Path, it's up to 7,200 vehicles per day. And then as you start to get closer to the Marshall Gardens, these are the volumes post-build. So going through the intersection at Pioneer Trails at 3,400, and then it just slowly drops to 2,100, 1,200, and then south of the development, it's 825. So I'm just trying to highlight that the volumes that we're talking on this section of Dell Road are the smallest volumes on all of Dell Road. Now that we've assigned the trip distribution and the traffic model of trips in and out, the next thing we do is we look at intersection level of service. This is where we're starting to evaluate the safety of adding these trips to our intersections. So our goal is always to have A or B level of service. That's less than 10 seconds for an A, 10 to 15 seconds of delay for a B. These are the type of intersections that are very safe. There's very few accidents, if any. There's little risk. There's not a lot of decision points drivers have to make. Sometimes we see these at C's to D's. Those are acceptable levels of service, not uncommon for new development. What we do want to avoid is an E or an F. An E or an F indicates we have high-risk maneuvers. We're going to have issues with accidents, and it usually indicates that you need additional treatments. Maybe you need a roundabout, a traffic signal, you need to add lanes, maybe it's a four-way stop. When we start seeing E's and F's, that's when we start talking about making infrastructure improvements to accommodate traffic and improve that level of service. So all of our intersections that were evaluated with this development are along Dell Road. They're at La Ferre, Jonathan, Geisler North, Stable Path, Strawberry Court, Geisler South, and Crestwood Terrace. They're all stop controlled, so the McDowell Road, of course, doesn't stop. Side Street are the movements that stop. If you look at today's level of service before this development, for all those intersections, they're all A's. They have 9 seconds or less of delay. So it's like an A minus. 10 seconds is when it hops over to a B. So today conditions, it's A. It's where we always want it to be. Now, if you do a couple things here, now we're looking at 2027 build. So a couple of things have happened. Marshall Gardens all built out. People are living in it. It's 2027. We're factoring a 1% growth rate per year between now and then, just because our population continues to grow. And also Dell Road has been improved. So Dell Road, just by the nature of improving Dell Road from a gravel section to a pavement section, is going to generate about 200 trips per day, just because now it's an improved road that's more attractive than it was before. So all of those things happening, now we look at those same intersections in the AM peak, the PM peak, under a no build and a build scenario. For the most part, they're all staying the same. They're A's, and I should point out, when it says AA, the first A is the overall intersection level of service. The second A is just the side street level of service. So we're AAs across the board. At Geisler Road North, that does drop to a B for the side street. It adds a second of delay, so it goes from an A minus to a B plus, rather moderate. But it's the same under a build, no build situation. So really the Marshall Gardens is not doing anything to influence that. It's really that 1% growth factor each year, and it's Dell Road being improved. Again, we see some more A's at Strawberry, Geisler Road South, and then at Crestwood Terrace, that is the one that goes from an A under a no build scenario to an AB in the build. So that's really the only one that changes primarily due to Marshall Gardens. But again, it's a 1 second increase in delay. So really the conclusion of all of this is that currently all intersections and approaches operate at a level of service A today during the AM and PM peak hours. And the peak queues, that's the number of vehicles that are stacked up waiting to get onto Dell Road, is always 2 vehicles or less. In the year 2027 build scenario, all intersections and approaches operate at a level of service B or better, most of them are better, during those exact same periods. And the peak queue for some of those do reach 3 vehicles or less. So it's an additional vehicle that's queuing, and that's why you're seeing that added second of delay. And again, Dell Road, this section of Dell Road will continue to have the lowest overall volumes along the entire corridor. And the last thing I want to point out is that stop signs are being recommended at Crestwood or for Crestwood at La Forêt. And maybe just a couple other things to point out, because I think there have been comments about, well, do we need a roundabout at Crestwood? Do we need an all-way stop? Generally, we're not looking for roundabout unless you start hitting about 500 vehicles per day per approach, and you have a level of service issue. You've got excessive delay, or maybe you have accident problems, and we're just not seeing those types of characteristics at that intersection. So it isn't something that we would typically recommend. As for the 4-way stop, generally, the 4-way stop analysis has warrants where you're looking for 300 vehicles per hour on your major street for a minimum of 8 hours out of the day, and we just don't have those volumes here. We've got 1,200 for the entire day, so we would never be anywhere near 300 per hour for 8 hours. Also, you want to see a side street vehicle volume of 200 vehicles per hour, and again, those volumes don't exist at Crestwood Terrace. So the 4-way stop wouldn't be warranted today. I think that's something that we'll evaluate. Once opening, all units are sold. This is one of those routes that are always on our count list that we do every 3 years. So we'll evaluate it and see if conditions change. But based on what our traffic model is telling us, it wouldn't be a good candidate for a 4-way stop. And that concludes all the traffic information.
Robert, I just have a quick question. When Dell is improved all the way down to Flying Cloud, are we I think I read into what you said, that we're anticipating some increased traffic because of drive-through traffic, people cutting that short, they could go down to Spring, they could go to Eden Prairie Road, right? Well, right. okay, so there's three options now, so they may be taking this one, that's partly, right? Do we anticipate more than the 225, I think, cars out of the neighborhood going south? That now it's improved and it's just an easier, not that they, I guess, would have gone down to Eden Prairie Road, right? They would have probably done Dell on a gravel road, but, so really we're just anticipating an increased cut through coming up from the south.
Yeah, generally, we predict there'll be 200 new vehicles that don't use that road today that will, once it's improved, that maybe they're using Eden Prairie Road, Spring Road, maybe Highway 101, I'm
Right.
not sure, but these are not neighborhood traffic trips. These are people that are maybe trying to get to 212, maybe trying to get up to Highway 5. But yes, those would be 200 per day that will not exist, that don't exist today, and will happen regardless of what happens with Marshall Gardens. If that continues to be farmed, we anticipate 200 new trips once that road is improved.
And do we have any tools to deal with that down the way if, you know, if we wanted to really try to route cars more to Spring Road because there's not the residential development on either side of it? I mean, are there tools we could use to try to limit some of that cut? I don't anticipate it being a problem, I really don't, but if it were.
Yeah. You know, I really don't think there are tools. I think that these are the types of volumes a road like this is going to attract. And to put that into perspective, I mean, we're talking, you know, south of Marshall Gardens, 825 vehicles per day. I'm trying to think of roadways that have that low of a volume right now. And there's,
I get it. It's low. I understand that, so, okay. Council, anything else of traffic and or at the moment, something with development with Julie? Lisa? No? Oh, you turned.
No, well, I'm thinking Dell Road is, or not Dell Road. Yeah, it's fairly steep though.
Got
Towards.
a graded, that's one reason we would be rebuilding it.
Are we going to how? I mean, how's it going to look?
the grade improves slightly. The curves are pretty sharp right now, so we'll be regrading those so they're not as sharp. But this road will have curves. I think the curves in and of themselves will help keep speeds down.
That's what I think too. It might keep people from using it as a through road too. I don't know. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Getchell, would you propose, we can always come back to both of you if there's questions. At any time during this process, as you know this evening, Council, you can ask questions. We're going to open it up to public in just a moment. Oh, presenter from the developer. You're antsy, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Is there anything else before we have the developer then present?
No, Mayor, that would be developer next and then the public hearing.
Got it. Thank you so much. So thanks for being here this evening. Go ahead. Name and then company and address.
Thank you. My name is Kelsey Thompson. My address is Lake West Development, 14525 Highway 7 in Minnetonka. I just first want to say thank you so much to the staff. I know Jeremy's not here tonight, but Julie Carter, who's also not here tonight, it's just been such a breath of fresh air working with this staff. It's just been a really wonderful experience. Thank you for the council members and the mayor for bearing this cold season to be here tonight. We're excited to be presenting this project. Also, thank you to all the neighbors that are joining us tonight, both online or in person, and for following this project. Does somebody have a presentation? Thank you. If you want to flip to the next slide. This is just our timeline outlining our workshops that you're familiar with, the 2 neighborhood meetings that we've had, and most recently when we met with Planning Commission. If all goes smoothly, we plan to start construction this summer. Thanks. This is the site plan that was presented to the neighbors and Planning Commission. As a reminder, our intent with this plan was to preserve the bluffs and a portion of the historic land use to grow vegetables, preserve the substantive open space the neighbors are to the west and to the north are accustomed to, and by that giving an abundance of spatial separation. Also to align with the 2040 Aspire plan for this infill site. Next slide. Thanks. So what are some concerns that we heard at the Planning Commission meeting? I think Julie hit on those quite well, but I will go through them with you just to explain a little bit more of our why. And one of the concerns that we heard was the spatial separation for the neighbor to the north of lots 13, 14, and 15, just on the east portion of this site. The neighbor had a concern that their property was really the only one that had a home from this development abutting their property line. We did note that we are preserving quite a bit of open green space. If this was developed, with all the hardscape or maximizing hard cover, that, all the neighbors would have lots of budding properties. But in this case, this neighbor had this concern. Another concern that we heard at the Planning Commission meeting was the community garden area. If you just want to flip to the next slide. In this plan, the outlot for the community garden was just over 2 acres in size, allowing for a couple hundred plots of various sizes. One of the key issues that came up was how the space was going to be managed and maintained, what it would look like, especially with the size and being open to the public community. Another concern with that was just the outside traffic and the need for parking that the community gardens open to the public would create. Another concern that we heard at the Planning Commission meeting was the desire for more landscaping and buffering trees along the northern property edge. With this concern, the neighbors to the north wanted to ensure that there would be adequate screening from the community garden. And those are some of the concerns that we heard at the Planning Commission meeting. If we jump to the next slide, thank you. What changes did we make to resolve these concerns? One change we made was to shift the villa lots to the west and angling the easterly lots 12 through 15 to provide adequate buffering and spatial separation. Julie already hit on this, but by shifting those lots, the former lot 15 is now entirely an outlot for landscaping and buffering that will be maintained by the HOA, providing that adequate screening and buffering. By angling the lots and villa homes, the backyards of the villas will overlook the pond and maintain the privacy of the neighbor to the north. This angling of the villas may also help promote traffic to travel out and in from Dell Road. If we go to the next, this is an exhibit. This exhibit shows a cross-section of the villa home at lot 15 in juxtaposition to the neighbor immediately to the north. So the closest pinch point was increased by about 25 feet from our last plan. But again, with the angling of the home, the privacy is maintained more versus our previous plan where the back of the homes were facing each other. Thank you. Another change we made to resolve the concerns we heard at Planning Commission was to the community garden area. We did add more landscaping and buffering trees to the north, as Julie pointed out. We are using the best practices and research from the University of Minnesota Arboretum Extension Program for a more climate resilient and lower usage plant palette. We reduced the area from, and this is just that outlot area that green arrow is pointing to, we reduced that from 2.5 acres to just under an acre, which decreased the area by more than half. Another change we made to the garden area is that it is internal now to the residents within the Marshall Garden community. We do feel this still meets our goal of preserving a piece of this historical land use to grow vegetables, and it still is a benefit to the community. But this also eliminates the outside traffic and the demand for parking, and it'll have a nice area with a little shaded area, seating bench for residents to take a break in the shade away from the sun. And Cody will get a little bit more into that as well on the next slide. But those are some of the changes that we made in response to the concerns that we heard at Planning Commission. I'm going to invite Cody up next, who's going to walk you through a little bit more details of our plans. We are available here tonight for questions, and we are excited to be here.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you.
Hi, Cody Dietrich with Lake West, 14525 Highway 7, Minnetonka. And I'll just continue that in the same slide that she was going from. And staff and Kelsey has answered most things. I'm just going to try to add a few more quick points and show you some great renderings to keep it moving. If you go to the next slide, you'll see a view looking east over the community garden. When the community garden was proposed last, we were looking at setting up as a nonprofit to run it. Now it'll be just managed by the HOA along with the rest of the lawn care, private sidewalks, private roads. Additionally, the community garden has a fence around it to protect all the vegetables and flowers from any rabbits, deer from eating those. And for reference, currently it's showing about 35 10 by 10 plots with 4-foot walkways throughout. That could shift a little bit depending on needs. If some resident wants to have a 20 by 20, they could increase that. So there's flexibility amongst those. And with this current design, that serves about 30%, 30 to 35% of the overall villa and townhome or condo flat residents.
Who's going to own and manage the NERP pond, then the two of them, but the one we're looking at right there?
Those will be city-owned. So they'll be taking a portion of private and public stormwater from the roads. And so there'll be a stormwater maintenance agreement with us as well as the city. Those will both also be ponds that are retaining ponds, retaining the water. Just going back to the site plan, higher level notes. So you see all the area to the south of the condo flats. That is about 13 acres of preserved bluffs that we are dedicating to the city. And the city will be adding future trail connections through there. When you look at the development overall, we are preserving about 59 to 60% as green open space or pond space through the community garden, the bluffs, and throughout the whole entire development. Here's some renderings of the project. This is from the front north side looking south at the main entrances. There will be 23 units in each of these center buildings and then 27 in the two buildings with elbows. In the center buildings, there will be area for a management office, club room, small fitness room, outdoor kitchens, and different amenities to service both the villas and the condo flats. You can go to the next slide. This is just looking at the space between two of the buildings, the elbow building and the straight building. This is all above the parking garage that connects all the way through. It'll be landscaped and provide those different grilling areas, outdoor kitchens, seating areas, and aesthetics to get to the south side of the project where the pool and everything are. This is an overview of the pool, which is in the center of the south side of the development. This originally was up in the northeast corner, but from concerns we heard through the workshops, neighborhood meetings, those then shifted, or the pool shifted back to the middle along with the amenities from a previous club room to make them central to the development and then further away from the residents to give that buffer. I do want to point out too some of the sustainable features of the development. You'll see solar panels on top of the roof. On the entire south side of the roof, we have shed-style roofs where it allows for those solar panels, and then you'll see the steeper pitches to provide that architectural level on the north side, on the street side. So we have solar panels and portions of the roof with the options to add as we go further. Additionally, the site will be creating new stormwater management through the stormwater ponds. Currently, a lot of that stormwater runs off down the bluffs and into Riley Creek. And then we'll have EV charging in the garage, able to service up to one per unit will be planned for future proofing. And then we have Energy Star appliances and climate resilient plantings that we've been working with Arboretum on as part of the community garden and all the additional landscaping with our engineer Westwood. So looking to make this as sustainable and green as possible to go with the fact of the Marshall Gardens and creating their legacy long-term.
Cody, what kind of electric output are we talking about with? That's a lot of solar panels up there, and what will it be able to supply in terms of these residents?
Yeah, so we currently estimate to supply probably about half of the common areas, and maybe a little bit more to the residential, but that's still to be worked out. It's a couple 100,000 kilowatts per year. I'm not a full solar expert on exactly how much that means, but
I'm not either, but
and we'll be working through that further as we go.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Here's just another rendering of the front side looking to the south. Here is our standard floor plans. So the benefit of these units are they are front to back of the building, so it allows the units to all have views of the bluffs and overlook the preserves towards the Minnesota River Valley. So then bedrooms will be on the north side, and then the living area will be on the south side, and the kitchen, bathrooms will all be in the central portion. This is showing the end of the building, the 2 units on the end. Additionally, each building will have 4 residential access points, which will service about 6 units per access. So each 6 units will have an elevator, a private elevator for themselves. So it tries to keep to a point where we're creating that privacy, especially post-COVID, where you don't have to be in common corridor halls with 100 people. You're just interacting with those couple neighbors you have. Next slide. Here are a couple of renderings of the villas. This is just looking from the north to the south to the north along Crestwood Terrace. Here's another rendering looking at the same view. And then here's a couple examples of floor plans. So we have several options. We have a slab option, would just be a single-story living. And then we have an option to add a loft or a basement walkout or lookout. The intent, again, is to create that single level living. So we have the main bedroom, the washer dryer, all the bathrooms on that first level, with the addition of the ability to add those additional bedrooms or recreation space for grandkids, live-in children, guests coming, whatever that may be. So if somebody was just to build out just the single story slab, it's about 2,400 square feet. If somebody chooses to go to the loft or with the basement, it's about 3,500 square foot villas. The condo flats are all around 2,000 square foot, 2-bedroom dens, with the opportunity to create the den into a 3rd bedroom. Next slide. I think that wraps it up, and we're happy to answer any questions and anything else that you guys would appreciate.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Question I got, you use the term stacked townhouse. I use the term condo. Explain the differences to me, because I have not heard that term before in comparison to what I'm looking at.
I don't think I use the term. I think actually Julie mentioned that one. Not to put Julie on the spot. But the intent, I think, we've mentioned townhomes a couple times with this. It's meant to keep that townhome level scale. You know, we're about 37 feet tall, which could be similar to a 2-story townhome. So it's trying to keep that scale, but we're all single level living with that elevator. And
Okay, so really it's condo.
it's condos, yep. Condo flats, yep.
That's just what I want to make clear as far as my head, because the way I understood going through this as far as that it falls heavily under that realm on it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Kelsey, again, maybe I could just steal the mic just to explain a little bit further and maybe why some townhome language is incorporated with these, and that they do live kind of like a townhome, and that there is no central corridor like a typical condominium building. So the elevator, the stairs brings you right up to your unit where you go left or right, up, left or right. So it is really like kind of a townhome condo hybrid in a way.
I was going to use that term.
Yes.
That's fair.
You kind of live like townhome, but it is a condo technically, yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Semantics and definitions. Let's see, I had one quick question. On an earlier iteration, maybe very early and very rough, maybe before you all were involved, I thought I saw a goal of the people selling the land in the early discussions with developers that a couple lots would be carved out on the very southern tip south of D, maybe even on the creek, and that went away, right? I mean, this is all dedicated land to the city now.
Yeah, that was part of the original plan. Some of the Dell Road improvements made that difficult as we started to work around that curvature, as Public Works had mentioned earlier, and trying to preserve the home and create a couple additional lots just became too much of a challenge and hard for that Dell Road improvements.
So how many acres are we talking about total in Outlot D that will be dedicated to the city?
It's like 12.7, just under 13.
That's nice. Really good for the creek too as well, so that's super positive.
And I know as part of this project, then staff will be working, park staff will be working on providing trails that connect through Riley Creek Preserve, and then going back further to the west or along Crestwood Terrace too, behind those homes.
Right, good, great. Council, anything before we have a public hearing? You can always ask more later. You had a thought? You definitely look like you have a thought.
I just have, right now I have a question about soundproofing. How, are you gonna have additional insulation or anything because it's so close to the airport?
Not necessarily because of the airport. I think that all gets factored into them being condos. So we're going to do higher level windows, maybe a triple pane window. We're going to add additional floor soundproofing because they are condos, and we want that higher level of care for people who are buying than you'd see in a typical apartment rental. So soundproofing is very important because if we don't have it properly soundproof, people aren't going to buy them. So
What about the villas? Will they have additional?
yep, they'll have those same level windows. So it's meant to be kind of that similar level finish throughout.
So when they're there, what will it be like when a plane comes? Oh, I mean, is it going to be really loud, or I mean,
It'll be muffled, I believe. I don't know if I have a good answer for like exactly how it is. I mean, I live in Edina, and planes fly over my head every day, and I hear them when I'm outside, but I don't ever hear them in my house. They're just
Well, and there's hundreds of homes right now to the north.
yeah.
that- I don't know if they're
I'm just thinking
soundproofed or
about
not.
complaints and
Right, oh, sure, yeah, no, it's a
Okay.
good question.
All right.
no, totally understand though.
Okay.
Okay, let's go ahead and have a public hearing, then we'll close it at some point, and council, you can have additional questions. So, public, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the council this evening Please come forward, give your name and your address, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. My name is, excuse me, Catherine Ellen Becker. I'm a resident at 9688 Geisler Road, and I have lived there with my daughter, her husband, my two special needs grandchildren, and my daughter's two children for the past 8 years. I am considerably concerned about the presentation tonight with the traffic because there is a discrepancy that there is currently a very large building project on the corner of Dell and Pioneer. Those cars were not included. Those cars and their exiting were not outlined as to what is it doing to Dell. At the moment, we are dealing with all of the construction vehicles and with the various materials, with the mud. It's a big problem. Then going forward, I'm a former teacher, and I did my homework. And this project nationally is called a tsunami building project. There are a vast number of these 100, 200, 300 homes being built in clusters. It's nice to look at the map, but if you really look at what that means, that quantity of homes and that spacing, it is staggering.
Catherine, just so I understand your concern, is it the clustering itself? Is it the fact that there's so many homes in America being built that
Well,
there's too
the
many?
clustering materials, the population and housing density have a substantial influence on the occurrences of residential fires in the environment. We have a tremendous fire going on in California. They can't get it stopped. We're talking about 30 acres of vegetation south, west, and east of this building project. The density variable was changed at the last meeting, and the land was reduced to a very high density of homes that are now going to go taller. In the last few decades, the rapid urbanization, the socio-economic development and employment activities have multiplied the use of the material, the electricity, and they're the probable cause of the increasing fires. Several studies have found that the built environmental components were significant determinants in the occurrence of residential fires. According to data for the United States Fire Administration, these highlighting the significant number of fires occurring in dense housing areas like these complexes, the data indicate that the fires in the dense housings are considerably concerned due to the proximity of the multiple units and the potential for a rapid spread. The amount of land that this is taking up is minimal, and if one of those houses starts, it will spread like wildfire, no different than California. And then what about lightning? This particular geographic area is very high on the bluffs. My house was hit by lightning last year. There are 8 neighbors in our area that have been hit, either their homes or the trees. Now we're talking about the bluffs and how high can we go? The southwestern portion of the upper Mississippi River Valley includes southwest Minnesota, has the highest concentration of positivity, polarity, CG strikes in Minnesota. The Global Hydrometeorology Resource Center Distribution Active Archive Center tracks and keeps the lightning data per state and per county. From January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020, Minnesota had 8,792 lightning pulses with a total of 9 990,888 hitting the ground. The elevation of the bluffs is the highest area hit in the state of Minnesota. Our house 1 block away, the neighbors 1 block away, the building constructions are even taller. Between September 1st, 2004 and September 30th, 2024, in 20 years, the property damage per lightning strike was $2,475,000 in damages. And you're looking at $1 million per home, and this is going up to $2 million if it strikes in a less dense area.
Catherine, go ahead and
I think
maybe finish up.
I'm going to finish right now. That in the local news, Eden Prairie has it indicated that there is not enough fire equipment, there's not enough fire members, and there is much more money needed for full-time staff and for the time fighting equipment. Fire damages to the homes, the duplexes, the townhouses, the garage, the businesses. This is a very important global warning condition. And the proximity to Purgatory Creek and the environmental areas, we are having our head under a barrel if we don't look to California and the density of this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Someone else to address the council tonight on this project. Thank you. Give your name and address.
Could you bring up the picture of the development?
Can I get the slides, please?
So I'm Beth Reese, and my address is 9744 Lafayette Drive. So I'm on the corner that's been adjusted for the exposure issue that was an issue at the last meeting. I'm thankful that they listened and have made adjustments. I appreciate that. But I'd also like to point out one more issue that a lot of our neighbors aren't here tonight. We're bringing up last meeting was the traffic flow. And I think there's going to be a lot more traffic coming through this Canopy Trail is the name of it. It goes on to Lafayette, which is the main wraparound. But if you look at the exits coming out of the condominium development, there's 3 exits, and 2 of them are gonna steer 90% of the traffic going east, and that's gonna go into the developed neighborhood that a lot of single-family homes are. I think we wanna move it so that that middle exit is more towards Dell, which can accommodate more traffic, a lot more traffic. It's still only going to be a 2-lane road compared to north of Pioneer Trail on Dell, you've got 4 lanes. So that can accommodate a lot more. We need to move that middle exit point much further over so that the traffic doesn't want to all go to the east. Because your exit points, if you look at your basement parking, you've got underground parking. Everybody's got to park underneath there. They get 2 stalls. That's 200 lots. They could all go out. We have no control over them going into our neighborhood unless we make that a one-way coming in and out. Just make it so they can only come in for emergency vehicles. That would be my proposal if this isn't adequate, to just move that over so that you're steering more traffic towards Dell. I can't believe that this hasn't been addressed yet. So I know you listened to me on the last conversation, and every time we've come, this is my 4th visit, they've made accommodations. So I know you'll still process this. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Cody or Kelsey, let's see, can you put that map back up? So where the outdoor parking is and where she's talking about the exit there on the kind of upper right side. Can you access underground parking from that parking lot, or are all those cars exterior parking?
Yeah, so the left and the center access points, access that grade parking. But then both of them have a spot where you see the dog park down to the bottom left next to the pond. Those loop around and there's access to the underground parking there at the bottom southwest corner. So the garage actually has accesses on both ends of the building. So you can go in and
But
out
again,
either
the
way.
parking that's in the middle, that would I wish I could point at.
In the underground or the?
No, I'm talking about the
Surface.
exterior,
Yep.
like what you might think of as visitor parking.
Yep.
That doesn't have access to underground parking, only the two.
Correct. Yep. So that's.
So really that exit there, I mean, again, if you think that most of the condo owners will have their cars parked in the garage, that exit's not a relevant exit to move, is my question. Understand what I'm?
It won't get used that often, I think
That's
that's what
my
you're getting
point.
to. Very important for fire though. So we have all those access points so people can walk out. So if they park in front of a visitor.
If they parked outside.
To go into the
yeah,
residential.
I understand that.
But then fire needs that access so they can get through and there's no.
But the
dead
majority
end.
will be underground parking likely
Yep.
if they live there.
Yep.
Okay. That's my only
Yep.
point. Thank you. Let's see. Anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council this evening? Come forward, give your name and your address. Hi.
Hi, my name is Cindy Leverins. I live at 9703 Geisler Road. And my concern is and has been traffic and density. The traffic, they explained how it goes less and less and less as it goes south on Dell Road. Well, the road also gets smaller. It's a single, it'll be a 2-lane road and it'll be residential versus north, it's not residential. So it's completely different. And density, that area has always been low-density housing. It's just been changed to medium density. And considering that the number of houses are built on basically just over half of the land that we're talking about, it's at the upper end of medium density. And for a condo to be set that far from the city center, and there's no shopping, there's no transportation, it's highly unusual to be in that kind of location. So again, it's the density and the traffic. And those are my concerns. They have been the whole time. I don't know how to address it with the pictures that they have, although they're beautiful. It just doesn't seem appropriate to me for that area of Eden Prairie, which is why we bought in that area of Eden Prairie. And that will completely change. So those are my concerns.
Thank you, Cindy. Hey, Robert, where'd you go? Before I forget, because the traffic came up again, the question was raised, did any of our traffic calculations include or think about the townhome development on the southeast corner of Dell and Pioneer?
So the traffic generated from that Pulte development, most of that traffic is coming directly off Pioneer Trail, and they're the first left turn in. So most of that traffic doesn't even pass near this development, or the residents that have spoken. We did factor in growth rates and accounted for we made some conservative estimates of what the traffic would be, just to err on the safe side. And then I'll also point out that the Dell Road you see on the northern end of town, Highway 62 to Valley View to the Railroad Bridge, that is also a 2-lane road, almost identical to what's being proposed with this section of Dell Road. Again, it's mostly single-family housing, but we have volumes of 3,400, 3,200. A 2-lane road can safely handle 6,000 to 7,000 vehicles a day. There's a lot of capacity still remaining even after this development on Dell Road. It's not really a capacity issue.
So my questions, and you answered, thank you, but even though maybe the actual hard numbers, it sounds like you did think about them, but maybe they're not directly calculated into the 3,400 number there, but you were aware of that and you considered that, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sure. We still have an open public hearing.
Okay, we'll start to the end of it.
Is that fine? I mean, I'm interrupting, that's fine. You can, or you want to wait, doesn't matter, whatever you'd like to do. If it's relevant to the public hearing, I think it's helpful for them to hear some of
It might be. I'm thinking back from earlier workshops. What is the average price that these condominiums are probably going to sell at?
Yeah, so the condo flats are about 8.5 to or 850K, excuse me, to about 1.2 million. And then the villas will be about 1.1, 1.2 to up to about 1.5 million.
Okay, so these are people who deliberately want to go to this area if they're willing to pay those prices.
Correct. We see our target market as more empty nesters, a little bit more senior demographic. So we don't anticipate those same traffic counts as well. Those are ITE codes, and which is fair for using for this traffic report, but we expect there to be a little less traffic because people aren't traveling as much.
Thank you.
This is still a public hearing. Thank you. Thanks, Cody. Thanks, Kathy. Anyone else to address the council this evening? Thank you. Give your name and address.
My name is Richard Copy. I live at 9872 Crestwood Terrace, I live on the first cul-de-sac as you go on Crestwood Terrace from Dell Road. I've attended, I think this is my 5th meeting on the project, and I commend the developer for listening to people. I'm not necessarily in favor of the density, as somebody else spoke about tonight, but I think it's a reasonable plan. I like the upscale nature of the plan. So and I like the way the developer has listened to some of our comments. This is the last place to develop in this neighborhood, so we want to make it right. I think you would all agree with that. And to me, I have 3 items I want to bring up tonight. They're not necessarily specific to the development, but they're certainly about the development. First one is Dell Road design. Second one is Crestwood Terrace, where I live. And the third one is the trail system in the whole area. The trail system meaning pedestrian movement and so forth. So I moved here 5, 6 years ago, and I loved the area. My wife and I were looking for a retirement home where we could get everything on one floor. We found it. Eden Prairie is a great city. I love the trail systems you've developed. I love the park systems. I went to the city at that time because I saw the gravel road, and I knew Dell Road was a state aid street. I happen to be an ex-city engineer from my background, my profession. So I went to the city and I said, what's going to happen to Dell Road? And what's going to happen to the trail system along the creek? Because our house backs up to the creek. And they told me at that time that Dell Road would be paved and become a road like you're showing, a 2-lane roadway, once the development occurs on the farm property. So we're here tonight talking about that. They also said the trail system would be developed around that time as well, but they didn't have the right-of-way right now to do it. So as I go through my comments, I'm going back to that discussion I had a few years ago, because we're here tonight now with this development. So let me start with Dell Road. I really think the traffic volumes are fair, but I believe you're missing one important point, and that's the speed of the traffic. I walk my dog, my wife and I walk along Dell Road, lots of people. There's a lot of pedestrian activity out there. And every once in a while, you'll see a car going 50 miles an hour. There's no stop signs, but they will stop because of that gravel area. Once they hit that, it's kind of like going over a chute downward. And you'll see them stop when they get past Crestwood Terrace. But now you're not going to have that. So I really think, I'm not suggesting you put stop signs up every intersection, but I even suggested back a ways you look at a traffic island at Stable Path, or maybe at Crestwood Terrace where this development's going in, because traffic roundabouts have proven to be efficient in not only moving traffic, but slowing traffic down. So something to think about. And I really think the Dell Road design should be looked at real carefully, because once you take that gravel road, flatten the curves out a little bit, lessen the impact of the vertical alignment, speeds are gonna be an issue. I really believe that. And maybe you won't see it tonight. I mean, maybe you won't deal with it tonight, but you will deal with it at some time in the future. And I hate to see it happen with a pedestrian vehicular interaction that becomes a serious problem. I also on Dell Road want to point out one real important thing, and I think the developer has touched on that already, but I'd really like to see the Dell Road design focus on that, and that is the landscaping. I came in and met with your city engineer. He's not here tonight, but I met with him and the planner. And I looked at the plan carefully. You're taking out a ton of trees. If you think about it, if you've driven down there, you know why. Because you're gonna flatten the curves out, you're gonna have to cut down those hills. There's tremendous slopes along Dell Road. I think the engineer said 200 and some trees would come out. They're not all big. But the point I wanted to leave you with is think about landscaping, because Dell Road right now, south of 212, all the way down, is a beautiful landscape roadway. You've got evergreens. In fact, when we bought our property 5, 6 years ago, that was one of the reasons we bought there. We thought it looked beautiful. So I hope you don't denude it now by taking all these trees out and not putting a lot back in. You also have a power line. Don't have many power lines in Eden Prairie, but there's a power line on Dell Road on the east side from about Geisler all the way south to the farm property. Now, I'm not sure if it's just for the farm or what it's for, but I suspect that's what it's for. That's gonna come down. And on the plan the city showed me, the trees along that side were gonna come down. So I hope you look at the landscaping, because I would sure like to see Dell Road maintain the beauty it has right now all the way to Flying Cloud Drive. Second item is Crestwood Terrace. I live on Crestwood Terrace. The engineer said tonight it's gonna go from 100 cars up to 235 vehicles per day. That's what I saw on the screen. I may have missed it a bit, but the number isn't a meaningful number to scare people. The volume, you can handle that. What scares me is there's no stop signs on Crestwood Terrace all the way from Dell Road to Pioneer Road. And it's a curving road. And we have a lot of little kids, a lot of traffic with pedestrians. And again, it's like Dell Road. We're more than doubling the traffic, and yet I don't see anything out there that's gonna stop speeding. And so I think, again, it's something you can't deal with maybe on day one, but it's a concern that I've heard from several of my neighbors. So that's number 2. The third item is the trail system. You've got just beautiful trails in the area. You've got the Minnesota River Bluffs Regional Trail. You've got Richard Anderson and that whole area with trail systems. You got Crestwood Park and the trail systems. You've got the Riley Creek Conservation Area, which you put a whole bunch of money into a few years ago. That's all redone. Between that Riley Creek Conservation Area and the Minnesota River Bluffs Regional Trail, that is, now you have all the right-of-way you need. You're getting the final piece in this project. I'm really disappointed that the city isn't including in this project to some degree a concept of a trail. I asked the developer, why don't you show a trail along the creek? Because that was in the plan, long-range plan for the city, and he said, that's not something we're doing. We're dedicating the property. The city is gonna do that. So I would just say to you, put a priority on that. You have all the right-of-way you need from that park on the east, all the way over to, I think all the way over to Lake Riley. You have all the right-of-way you need. I can't think of one parcel you don't have with this project. So I don't know why you can't come up with a plan. We that live there would like to know it, knowing that there's a pending trail coming. My wife and I, for example, you know, we don't have a ton of years left, so we'd kind of like to enjoy it. while we can, and we hear it's coming. But I asked the question again here in the last year, and there's no date given to me by your staff. Maybe there is a date, but I haven't heard it. And secondly, it would be nice to see what you intend to do and how it ties in. I think even the developer would like to see that. He's got a development going in with a pool and everything right along the creek area, but you haven't shown what your idea would be. So that's my third item. I know they're not all tied directly to the specific development, but I think they're all important items. And I would like to thank your staff for being friendly to me and my neighbors and the developer for listening to us, and thanks for tonight.
Thank you. Anyone else to address the council this evening on this project? Seeing none, you can run up really fast before we take this vote. Let's go ahead and have a motion to close just the public hearing.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. Okay, the public hearing is closed. Council, I think if it's okay with you, and Mark, I don't want to put you on the spot. If you're not ready, we'll go to Lisa, but if we just go down the line and just kind of share some thoughts, if you want to skip or pass, you don't certainly have to, but this is a pretty big project. I think be nice for the community to hear, kind of what each of us are thinking. If you all want a few moments, I can go first, so unless you're ready.
You go first, I'll go, then I'll
You
go.
sure?
You can go first.
Okay.
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
All right. I just took some notes based on responses to the comments this evening. So first, I do want to thank, what do we have, 4 people? However many, I should look at my notes, but people spoke up. Thank you for coming. It's always nice to hear from our community members. These kinds of projects, typically in my 29 years sitting up here on the council, typically we don't get a whole lot of people saying, love the project, it's all perfect. People come because there are concerns and issues, and that goes with the territory, but it is nice that you took the time to share with us. Second, I want to add, kind of just in the process here, we don't like operate in a complete vacuum where we have never seen this project until tonight. That's not the way it works, right? We had a couple workshop meetings early on where we were not in any way giving approval or disapproval to specifics of a project, but developer came in, and actually the owner had a designated spokesperson who came in as well in one of our meetings back in a workshop. But we really were having some ideas floated in front of us just to get a temperature read at the time. This is like a year ago, just to get a sense on, are we open to veering from what the typical expectation 40 years ago might have been for this property, literally when the guide plan was set up, to just plaster 55 homes on half-acre lots, and fill up every square inch of the entire parcel, even to the extent where the developer probably had land rights to go down that bluff. And we've really made a concerted effort over my time on the council, but really since for the last 50 years, Eden Prairie's made, the council members have made a strong effort to preserve the bluff. We have 6 miles of bluff land along the Minnesota River. This isn't on the river exactly, but it's that bluff feel. And we've really tried our best to conserve the bluff. So anytime we can do land transfers, density transfers, so in other words, a developer might have an option for 30-some acres to build 2.5 units per acre, and then you take that perceived ability to build that many acres or houses, and you transfer it up to the buildable land up on top of the bluff. So in that sense, you could even argue, and there are some legal ramifications here, that the owners of this property had the rights to put in 60, 70 some single-family homes. So that was the starting point where back about a year ago, the developers and the owners wanted to basically get a read on, were we open to something different? And at first, we had some concerns about a condo type building, right, Mark? Just that 3-story large kind of building on this beautiful, Marshall farmland. But we talked and talked about it, and we had the discussion that everything's a trade-off, right? You don't, like this council, we believe in sustainability. We'd love to get some solar. We'd love to get, freshwater options, or like the NERP pond. We'd really like to get some sustainability ideas. Also, we'd like to get some diversity in housing. We're an aging community. It's nice to get homes that possibly empty nesters might be interested in. It's good to get open space. I mean, the houses I think there are 10 houses contiguous to this property on the north side. They're used to looking at all this vast open space. We thought it would be nice to get an open space buffer in there. So you start adding all the things we kind of want, you don't get it all. So then we started discussing, well, would we trade off like a little bit higher density to get especially in the condo building, to get some of the other amenities and attributes that we wanted. So we sent the developer away saying we're open to the 3-story building concept, knowing that we would be potentially getting other options as well. And then I think they went away for, 8-9 months. I think we had another workshop in there at some point. So in other words, we haven't not thought about this. That's my point tonight. This is not like brand new to us. We've given a whole lot of thought to, do we like this in concept? We haven't seen this project until the Planning Commission. Well, I guess that's probably fair. The Planning Commission minutes, we got the first chance really to get a read on what this new final looked like. Of course, there was another iteration that came out after the Planning Commission. So we've had a chance to think about it, study it. We have not talked. Open meeting law prevents us from communicating with each other. So tonight's really the first night that we get the opportunity to get a read on each other. I will say right now to the three of you, be very open and transparent with all of us, because 4 votes are required this evening. We have a 5-member council. One of our council members is not here tonight. We need 4 votes. This is state law, state statute, to change guide plan. Am I wording that correctly? You're looking, yes.
Yeah, you need 4 votes for the comp plan amendment.
Comp plan amendment, thank you. I knew there was another way of wording it. Yep, you're right. So all of you would need to vote for that. If one of you does not, talk to us this evening. And not that we'll try to convince you, but we probably need to know that in your introductory comments. Now, to pass, once the comp plan amendment, if that were to pass, then the actual project itself just needs a majority vote, 3 votes. A couple concerns came up, specifically the fire concerns. I mean, my house, I'm the only council member in the last 40 years that I know of that had my house burn. Serious fire back in June 5th, 11:32 p.m. 2001. So I'm very sensitive to fires. It was a gas fire leak from the dryer. It wasn't lightning. Nonetheless, I'm very sensitive to that. I will say, one of the really great parts of townhomes and condos is they're sprinkled. I mean, if we could get every new home in the city to have mandatory be sprinkled, I would do that. It would add significant cost to homes, but we've actually been lobbying with that with the state legislature. But at any rate, every home in this development sprinkled. That's a massive, wonderful thing in terms of fire prevention, or if a fire did occur. We have an incredible fire department, and we are well-funded, and we are well-staffed, and we have up-to-date, state-of-the-art materials. So I have full confidence in our fire department, and we have a station really close to this development. So as much as fires, certainly wildfires are on our mind because of California. Everything I've read, and you've read it too, it's 100-mile-an-hour winds that did them in, not just we have wildfires in the state of Minnesota quite often up north, but it was the winds, and we don't get the Santa Anas yet, luckily. And then with traffic, we were concerned about traffic when we went from the 55, 65, 70. Actually, the 55 homes were spread, but if you took the density transfer, I think you could get 65 to 70 if you take the bluff in there. But the point is, let's just go with 70. 70 homes, single family, selling at $700,000, $800,000, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, would sell likely to young families. when you look at the estimated number of traffic trips per day from that typical 4-bedroom, 3-bath, half-acre lot home, it's higher than this. It's like the 10, Robert, I'm looking at you, but it's like the 10 to 12 unit traffic trips per day. So do the math. You actually get as many or more out of the 55 or 65 or 70 homes than you would out of this senior empty nested development. You just do. So I'm not, by the way, this land is going to generate traffic, just like your land did. Every one of you sitting in the room tonight, your land used to be an apple orchard. And I was on, well, technically, yeah, was I on the, I think I got elected about the time the apple orchard was being torn down, but I was privy to all the anger of neighbors around it, losing our precious Eden Prairie apple orchard. To this day, people who were still around from the 80s and 90s are upset about losing our apple orchard. That's any of you that live on Geisler or any of those roads. You tore down our precious, not you, we lost our apple orchard. So that's what development is in a suburban city, that we don't own the land. The city either decides to buy the land and keep it as parkland, which takes it off tax rolls, it's expensive, we do it, or we allow owners of lands to develop their land to the highest potential value that they're allowed by law to do. Otherwise, it's considered a taking and we would be sued. So this is a reasonable project for the owners of this land relative to, as I said, what we thought might go in there. So the traffic is, I think, typical for what we expected. Robert showed numbers that we certainly are prepared. By the way, we're prepared across our entire city of 35.2 square miles. We're prepared for the city of around, at one point we were prepared for about 85,000. We'll probably end up in the 75 to 78,000 range. We're prepared for that. We're prepared with our water towers, with our sewer systems, with our roads, with our maintenance capabilities, with our parks. We have prepared for this. This type of growth is exactly what we had planned for, and it's happening. As who was it who said at the end, and here we are, we're here tonight working through this. And then finally, the density, as I said, I think that was a trade-off that I think we got for our city, important aspects in that trade. Okay, I'm done. Lisa.
Wow.
Did I talk? I'm sorry.
No, you.
Someone said you're a retired teacher. I'm a retired teacher. Can you tell? 6th grade, I loved it. They had to listen to me. Sorry, you all don't have to, but go ahead.
No, you addressed a lot of things that, I'm sure we were thinking about. But I would like to say thank you for adjusting the plan after the planning commission meeting, and I think it looks really good. I'm happy that no heritage trees are going to be removed. The environmental studies have been completed, right? Okay. And Mr. Ellis answered my question about stop signs. I didn't think about the lightning. You don't think about that, but it's pretty high up there, right? I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but I lived in a house once that got struck by lightning, so.
Well, the highest part in the whole city is up north off of Baker, where we have a water tower sitting up on the ground up there. That's the equal height of the water tower that's by the mall, by the way. So yes, lightning hits relative to other high spots. So this is a high spot, but nonetheless, we're prepared.
Yeah. Okay. No, I just thank you for listening to the neighbors and adjusting your plans. I'm not sure. I think I'm finished. I may have one more comment, but.
Kathy, Councilmember Nelson. Thank you, Councilmember Toomey.
Yes. I too think it's important to have this development sprinkled. And what you've gotten planned for is something that will keep people who live there safe. You seem to have taken into account what people need to live there and what they're willing to pay consequently to get what the average person would want. I believe saving the bluffs is important. We don't we've done that everywhere we could. We don't want homes sliding down the bluff at some point. It's safety for the people who live there. It's safety for the people where homes would slide down. Places like California don't take that into account either. At least it seems not to be so much. An opportunity to make trails. I don't think until we've got all the pieces together that we put our trails on our operating plan for how many years out they're going to take. But once we get this owned, it will appear on those lists because we've known it's going to come and it's something we've wanted. And the people, who use them want them as well. It's not the only place there's trails in the city. They're all over the place, but they are used. And so I'm glad that we could make some of these last changes to make it a little better for some of the neighbors. But I will say that, be it from council or from staff or from neighbors, there's been more than typical listening ability by the developers. Probably a lot more than I think I've ever heard before, of looking at all the possibilities and bringing that in. So I am comfortable with this, especially with the last level of changes to make things better for some of the neighbors. And I'm just glad that there was so much consideration over the last year and a half to get as much as we could for this land.
Thank you. Councilmember Freiberg.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a lot to like about this project. The design is such. I like the way you shifted the properties and cut back a little bit on the garden area. I thought that was important as far as leaving the outlot to the side. The one thing that was brought up, I believe, by Mr. Coffey, is an interesting thing that we haven't talked about. Speed. Capacity seems to be not a problem. It might be to some, but as far as looking at it, the capacity on the roads would work. Speed's a whole different thing, and it's a problem throughout all of Eden Prairie and probably all suburbs around and cities around. Speed seems to be elevated. Is there any way that the speed itself, like along Dell, could be looked at? I guess that's the right term I want to say. It should be addressed. That what caught my attention is when was that once you get to a different plane on the road, all of a sudden speed opens up. Maybe it's stop signs. I'm not sure. I'm going to leave that over to as far as you're thinking, Mr. Ellis, on that group. But it should be something that should be addressed as the project moves forward. And I think that's in the whole spirit of that. Speed is a problem in the city, and it won't add to it. It shows that we're addressing it within what can be done to not just make that worse. Overall, I like the project. I think it's a good fit. I guess when I saw the last changes off on that, I'm feeling really good about what you've done with the buffer. Thank you.
I'll just, Robert, you can add in here too, but I was at a United States Conference of Mayors conference in Washington, D.C. this last weekend, and they had a session on various digital technology capabilities, particularly, relative to city streets. And it's not cheap, but the technology is exploding. I mean, we know that there are license plate readers, and we're not going down that route, by the way. I don't want to receive letters in the mail saying I got a ticket and I didn't even know I went through a speed area. But they do have the digital readouts that actually can send letters to people saying, hey, here's a picture, you were going 48 and a 33 or 30 mile an hour, and at least to work to slow it down. Again, those readers are not inexpensive. They are, but Robert, we have right now different capabilities around the city with the digital readouts that seem to be working. Again, the technology piece of it can be greatly enhanced as we go through the next few years with giving data back, sending it by Wi-Fi right to City Hall. We could have I'm just making this up because they're expensive, but if we had 20 of them around the city and constantly sending data back in, and then the police every morning, when they go out on their shifts, just look, and here's hot spots in the city at 10 a.m. over on Dell, whatever. There's things I think we can approach speeding as an issue as a society, but certainly here in Eden Prairie as we go into the next few years. And we've had talks about that too, and with our police. Our police are amazing, and they'll go out and sit in hot spots for a while. There's only 7 or 8 squads on the road at a given time. We can't send everybody out all over, but there are tools we have in our toolbox. I don't know that you want to put stop signs, plaster them across the city. I don't know if people have suggested lowering speed limits to 20 miles an hour. I don't think we want to do that for each of our sakes, but also people won't drive that. We'll have the police so busy trying to ticket everybody. But there are tools we have that I think we could utilize. So thank you for that comment, and I think it will be watched as we remember, Dell Road is a separate issue, separate project than this project, but they will go hand in hand because we've been waiting to upgrade Dell until the right-of-way money came in from this project, which will pay for a good chunk of Dell up around the Marshall Farm. So it should happen pretty soon that we'll upgrade Dell. Okay. Yes, Lisa.
I have a question for you. Don't you think, though, the shape of the road and how it's curved, it'll lend itself to driving slower anyways?
Well, that's a Robert question, but I think you're right.
Yeah, I do. I think the fact that it's staying a 2-lane road and not being expanded to a 3-lane, which adds more width and it makes a driver feel more comfortable going faster, is going to help. I think the natural curves that exist today north of this development and the curves going down the hill help keep people driving a safer speed, a lower speed. And there's also the grade. We're not flattening this out to 8%, 6% grade. It's still a 10% grade through stretches of this roadway. So again, there's a lot of natural contours and topography that we are working around that will help keep people drive slower. But we also have tools like the dynamic speed display signs that we've employed north on Dell Road in a couple of locations where we have a documented speeding problem. And I think the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to capture some speed data at various locations along this corridor from Pioneer Trail south and identify, do we have a speeding issue? Where are those issues occurring and how big of an issue? And that'll help us decide, well, what type of treatments do we need to look at to maybe address that?
And I would argue we have history right now with Spring Road. I think the feel of this new Dell will likely be similar if you've driven down Spring Road by the spring and then by Lines Tap. And so we have history that there's speeding on that road, and we get complaints on that, and we have tools, again, that we've been putting into play on Spring. But thank you for raising it, and we will be aware very much and on this one. We have a great public works department and a great police department. Okay, council, are we ready? I didn't really hear any questions of staff, so are we pretty much ready to vote? If so, would somebody make a motion starting with the second bullet?
Okay, I'll move to adopt a resolution for a guide plan change from low-density residential to medium-density residential on 9.78 acres and from low-density residential to parks and open space on 12.78 acres, and adopt a resolution for planned unit development, PUD, concept review on 8.03 acres, and approve the first reading of an ordinance for a PUD district review with waivers on 8.03 acres and zoning district changes from rural to R1-9.5 on 8.03 acres, rural to RM 2.5 on 9.78 acres, and rural to parks and open space on 12.78 acres, and adopt a resolution for a preliminary plat of one parcel into 16 lots and 5 outlots and 32.11 acres, and adopt a resolution in support of park dedication fees on 32.11 acres, and direct staff to prepare a development agreement incorporating staff and commission recommendations and council documents.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further final discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Oppose? Passes unanimous with the four of us. All right, again, residents, thank you for coming. Developer, thank you for your presentation. And staff, Julie and Robert, thank you for your work and presentations this evening. All right, moving on, payment of claims, which is the list of our expenses, basically, the checks that were metaphorically cut over the last month, or a couple weeks. Council, any expenses that you'd like to learn more about? It was pages and pages long, as it is every couple weeks. If not, is there a motion to approve the payment of claims as submitted?
I'll move to approve payment of claims as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Case,
Aye.
Councilmember Freiberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Councilmember Toomey,
Aye.
You threw me with putting me first. I think that's a new one, isn't it? I'm usually last. No, I'm okay with whatever. All right. We have pretty exciting ordinances and resolution tonight just because it's the culmination of a lengthy educational process. Mr. Getchell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council members. Yes, another project that's been under consideration for quite some time. I think I mentioned at the budget meeting in December that this has been under consideration for close to a decade. The good news for us is the work is in a building that we completely own and we've owned for quite some time. So it's a pretty exciting remodel project of the remainder of our city center for police and fire use. I don't want to steal any thunder from the presentation you're going to receive. Our partners, our construction managers, and our architect are going to walk through the project, how we got to where we are, how our bids came, and what next steps are and actions required of council. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we have devoted a number of workshops, so I think several of the design iterations, you as a council have seen them. In fact, I would say you approved them, and you approved us moving forward to the point we're at right now, where we're considering accepting bids and awarding the project. But our presentation is going to kind of walk us through how we got to where we are.
Great.
So I believe we have Dan and Mike.
Maybe give your name and the company you work for, and thanks for being here.
Good evening. Michael Healy with BKV Group, and the address is 222 North 2nd Street, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Great.
And I'm not sure who's queuing up for the station. Okay, thank you. So I'm the architect with BKV Group, so I'm going to give you a brief overview of the project and kind of where we're at, and then I'll pass it over to Dan, and he'll give you an update on the project budget and bid results. So, agenda, we'll go over the project goals one more time, just a design overview, the bid results, and then the proposed project schedule. So, refresh on the overall project goals was to meet the police 20-year operational space needs and provide indoor parking for the police squads. Part of the piece was to also look at improving wayfinding throughout City Hall and to the police department themselves, improving the work environment and recruitment for staff and health and wellness initiatives, improving the workspace and operational flow for both City Hall and police, provide secure outdoor parking for the police, and also relocate all city offices and meeting spaces to the main level. Design overview. So last time we met, we shared the same information. The overall kind of scheme of the design hasn't changed much. We're again relocating all city department offices to one level and improving the public accessibility and wayfinding, creating a new kind of dedicated police entrance off of the public parking lot. And total square footage that we're affecting is around 112,000 square feet. About 85,000 of that is for the police, and part of that 35,000 square feet is just for the garage space in the lowest level. City offices and public space account for about 27,000 square feet. And diagram here, police will take over the entire kind of west side of the building. The center core piece will maintain kind of the public functions, the meeting spaces, some of the city offices, and then the eastern side of the building will be City Hall that we're in now, and that will stay as is.
So Mike or Rick, is the garden room then I mean, will it exist at all? Will it?
Mayor, the garden room will be recreated, same square footage on this level,
On this current?
this current level,
Okay.
along with the heritage rooms. So that addition piece was bringing IT facilities, the heritage room and the garden room all up here between the space we're in now and the police department. And then that bottom area will become future leasable space. So I think you see that on the bottom slide where you see what the current garden room is, and that gray or blue could be leasable space along with the rest of the old, what will be the old PD.
And will the purple be touched, renovated by us so that we can lease it out, or will we wait until a leasee wants, see what they want, and then they pay as part of their renters, or whatever? How does that work?
The latter, what you just said, that's what we've done on the number of other leases we had, is to find the user and then do the tenant improvements as part of what they want to see and build it into their lease. Exactly the latter.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, great questions. As far as the site improvements, we are looking to improve and reduce some of the impervious area on the western and northern parking lot on the site. There's existing playground area that we're going to be demolishing and reconstructing with green space with native plantings and trees. We're putting a small addition on the building to include some police canine area, and also a requirement for Minnesota Building Code is to provide a tornado storm shelter. So that piece is being constructed and reinforced to act as the storm shelter. You'll see there is a stormwater area that we're constructing on the very northern side of the site that is to accommodate the police parking lot kind of reconstructions and also the building renovation addition piece. And then we also are providing a little bit more snow storage on the site by removing some existing pavement and parking on the southern side. And that will help during the winter months of storing and piling up snow there. Let's see if I missed anything there. I think that covered that.
Go back, sorry. Do the police have a dedicated exit, one of those two that, because they need to get out fast, and that was one of the advantages of this new plan, right? Is they have a better access to get
they
vehicles in and out.
Have that secure parking area is going to be surrounded by a security fence, but then there's two exit points out of that area, so there'll be two vehicle gates that can pivot up and down. And then they can still exit around the south side by the fire station, or they can go out either the two north drives towards Technology Drive. Okay. This will definitely help with the hidden corner that they currently have right now coming off.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. So this is just a little bit zoomed in scale of the plan here at the lower level. Majority of the lower level is that indoor garage space for keeping the expensive squads and all the sensitive equipment proper temperature and in a secure area. Within the garage, we're accounting for 53 stalls for squads, and 20 of those will be equipped with electric vehicle chargers. And then we have two additional smaller stalls for trailers and small equipment. The lower level also has a temporary detention area and the after-hours interview and release lobby. There'll be a dedicated vehicle processing bay and canine area, as well as expanded area for the police duty bags, equipment storage, and workspace for drones and other technology.
So we're going to cut off access from the blue going east, right? There won't be access into the existing first floor anymore.
That is correct. Yep, public access will be restricted kind of by that existing elevator that's in the atrium space.
And then the other existing area to the left, just will be retrofitted or for offices or something, or?
Yeah, that band is actually existing mechanical and electrical rooms and some facility storage. So that's going to stay as is with some renovations to the equipment that's in the space, but there won't be any improvements to the rooms. And level two, the majority of this space is the new police department, and that's shown in blue. The other spaces that are shown here are also part of the renovation project. So we have those meeting rooms both on the south and north side, Those are divisible rooms, so they can meet in the smaller group format or in a larger group format. There's a shared fitness facility and small lockers and shower facilities for the entire staff to use, both City Hall and Police Department. Maintaining that public atrium space there. We're not doing many improvements there other than just kind of fitting in the fitness room and updating those meeting rooms in that space. And then facilities has some space there in the triangle for storage, and there's also additional City Hall record storage in that space. We'll be moving the foundation office into one of those rooms there too, closer to the council chambers. And then both facilities and IT are moving their workstations and office space to that kind of southern piece in the center there. And all of that will have a new entrance piece that we're reusing the existing entrance on the building, but putting some new signage on it to say police entrance. And that will be connected to the main circulation spine here coming towards the City Hall and council chambers. So it'll be much improved wayfinding throughout the building. Any questions on this level?
Just everything to the east, it stays the same. What I'm looking at right now is is off to the right and it just stays the same.
Yep.
Got it. The staircase down to the potential leased areas stays, and the elevator?
Yes. Yes, for now. I think what could change is depending on what the use is below, we might have to figure out what to do with the open area that we have right out there. That would be below if that is lease space. We'll see what comes of that. For now, there are no plans to do any renovation.
The museum will still be down there, and then the
Yes.
records, and you'll still have to get access somehow because the staircase will, I'm assuming, but you're saying the large open area with the large historic photographs.
Yeah, it's to be determined. It's to be determined, but you're right, Mayor. You still want to have access to the museum and other areas
But
below.
also, that's a pretty cool attribute to this upstairs here, to have that big open space, and you look over the railing, you're saying that's possible, that could go away?
It depends on what happens for lease, but it may not.
Okay, because I do think that's a nice characteristic of this area up here, where the residents come in and go to the different departments, and they have that nice atrium to look over. And
yeah,
I'm micromanaging, sorry,
no, it's
but I'm
okay.
just sharing that I do like that.
The other thought too, and you know we've talked about this, is there are other possible entities that we lease to, I don't want to say who they are, that work with the city, that might be other public or for-profit groups, and they might be able to fit in that space that might not be private rental, and then you'd probably see that area stay open. I think the odds are that the area stays open, but if, let's say the police department area itself, which has its separate entrance, could be privately leased with its own entrance, we may never need to or want to touch the atrium area, but if we do, that would be a decision that you would be faced with.
Okay.
I have a question, since you just mentioned it. You said the restaurant was moving up. It doesn't seem to be listed on here?
No, I'm sorry, Councilmember Nelson. So the restaurant would not be a part of the building. The restaurant mainly has been catering off-site. So the garden room facilities would move up, but not the restaurant. The restaurant actually is currently relocating already.
Oh, okay.
I got a question if I could. 85,000 square feet are going to PD of that. Are you comfortable looking out 5 years, let's just say even a little further in 5 years, that we're not locking in too much as far as restricting the growth on the other side as far as the city? That's just something, that's something I'm concerned when I'm just looking at what 85,000 square foot look like. What you're thinking of it?
It's a great question, Councilmember Freiberg, and I think, the chief can answer this as well, but the feeling is when we planned out this space and planned this project, it's for the next 20 years. So the feeling is that we have room to grow and we have a comfort level with growth. But you're right, because I think this comment came up earlier that when we occupied this building almost over 30 years ago now, we had, many less police officers, much less space. less than 50 officers, now more than 70, and we have space needs. So when we do this remodeling renovation, we want it to last for at least another 20 or 30 years, and we think this accommodates all those needs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, one more point on that too, that triangle space that we've called out for facilities there, that's right now used for storage. We are equipping that with mechanical systems and everything to be converted to office space in the future if needed. So that will be all ready to go with the appropriate sized heat pumps and everything like that, so it can be converted to office space. So here we have a couple conceptual renderings then to just kind of walk through the project. This will be as you enter the public lobby from that police entrance off of the public parking lot. This is to the left, you would enter into the police sub lobby, and then a little bit forward to the right, you're seeing the new meeting rooms, the community meeting rooms. And then we're proposing some kind of city historical timeline wall and some other art features and branding features throughout the public space as well. And this space then leads into the police sub lobby. So on the left, you're seeing kind of the exterior windows and the exterior wall. There'll be a reception window there with ballistic resistant glass and reinforced walls and so forth to provide proper security barriers to the security area. And then we have some conference space and then some interview rooms and just some kind of additional seating space and form storage in that lobby. Then as we get into the police secure area, this is kind of their main concourse that runs along the spine of the building where there's the existing clear story windows. So this is a very active space. There'll be a lot of circulation going through here. So part of this project, we added a new stair and elevator down to the lower level garage space. So this is looking towards that elevator core. And right now we're playing around with featuring kind of an art feature on that large wall that'd be 2-story high on the elevator piece as you go down the stairs. That's what you're seeing in the background there. And to the right is just some office space with trying to bring in glass walls where we can to maximize daylighting in the office space and make that a comfortable space to work. Here's a view looking the other direction towards the west. Again, having some of the glass in the office spaces and conference rooms and meeting rooms, having small collaborative areas where we can. To the right, around the corner, there's the patrol team area. That's where they would do their reports and do some of their office work. So that'll be a nice active space. This here is the police break room, bringing in a lot of kind of natural tones and earth tones, make it a very inviting and comfortable space to relax. To the left, we are looking at having kind of an outdoor roof terrace area, if possible, on the existing roof there. So there could be some outdoor access and then soft seating and a mixture of seating opportunities in the break room. This is that patrol work area space where they'd have some collaborative team areas, and they're seeing the private offices for sergeants along the back walls. And we're going to the fun piece.
The fun piece, you say.
Dan Kelberg with Kraus Anderson, 501 South 8th Street. I'm the project manager. I kind of went through all the bidding process and building the work scopes. Hopefully I can do this without screwing it up. Bids were opened on December 18th at 2 p.m. We did have 26 different work scopes set up for bidders. 108 total bids were received on that day, which it averages out to be about 4.1 bids per work scope, which is pretty competitive and really great to see. We did have post-bid interview forms filled out. There were a few withdrawn bidders, just incomplete bids that they weren't kind of that responsible low bid. And then as part of tonight, we do have 25 recommended bidders with one work scope being rebid, just due to trying to find that extra value to the project. As part of that, we did have 4 alternates, with alternate number 2, the Faraday room being recommended for bid. So additional slides, you'll see the overall budget that does include that alternate number 2 in the numbers. As far as the project budget, construction came in a little over $21 million. That includes all the bids, the general conditions, and construction management. Below that, you'll see the 7% construction cost for contingency. It's a good, healthy sum. And then with the soft costs, as far as the owner costs and any other items, it comes into $26 million and a little over $700,000. As far as the revenue, we do have $26.5 million in bonding, and then we have an additional state sales tax refund of $250,000 to come to a total of $26,750,000. With a total cost balance of a positive $35,685. As far as the project schedule, construction is tentatively scheduled to start at the end of March, early April of this year, and then complete in May of 2026. That provides us an opportunity to get the police moved in that July, August timeframe of 2026. Next steps would be to issue contracts, something that KA would be doing on behalf of the city, and starting that material procurement process as well as permitting. So with that, requested council action would be to adopt the resolution to issue the contracts based off the recommendation letter for construction.
Thank you. Councilmember Nelson just suggested something I think is a great idea. Chief, we're putting you on the spot, but I don't think too much. Would you come forward and just maybe tell us, but also the community, how this addresses your needs? If you're comfortable with it, are you excited about it? Is it important, necessary? I'm giving you ideas here, but
no, it's.
But I'm sure you would have covered it all anyway.
It's all stuff we've thought about for a while. And as Rick said, it is something that's been very important to us to look at over the last decade and try and plan for it in capital projects looking forward. As Rick mentioned, in 1994, when we moved in here, we had 47 officers. We're now authorized at 75. We moved into 30,000 square feet of office. You know, this new project would make that more around 50,000 square feet office plus that parking ability. It is very exciting because we are quite literally busting at the seams. We currently don't have enough lockers for our authorized strength, just a couple short, not the end of the world. But we're also really trying to find those office spaces for additions. 2 years ago, we added our social worker. She's been extremely busy and extremely helpful and resourceful for our community. We were very fortunate. We were just awarded a grant from the state for another social worker, which will help us get one for another 18 months ahead of where maybe we were at the budgeting process for trying to do that cost sharing with Hennepin County. So super excited to get that another social worker, but right now there literally is no office for them. So we're going to do some office sharing and kind of figure out how that space would work. But as far as, you know, growth within the city and looking in the future, this will allow that space to have some room for future growth. There's open collaborative areas that just by the nature of design right now, I think are good for us, but that's also space that could be converted into other office space or other uses, especially as technology goes forward. A lot of the design and development of this really concentrates on keeping us to be very fortunate to be a leader in the area in technology. That Faraday room, that option for part of our forensics investigations is very, very important. Will really put us on the forefront of many around us. So we're very fortunate to explore that opportunity. So we're excited to see where it can go. I think it, you know, we're fortunate to have the equipment and supplies we do. I think to be able to protect that fleet, especially as we look more at investing in more of the electric vehicles and making sure we're being sustainable as we can. The ability to park that fleet inside, I can tell you, I think the officers would be very excited. Nights like tonight, if we got 6 inches of snow, they'd be out there at 20 below, moving about 30 cars back and forth across the lot so the plows can get in. I think it's just harder on the equipment, harder on the vehicles. So to be able to have those assets protected and be able to better respond with the community will be a very fortunate thing. So We're super excited about it. It's been a fun process to have a collaborative team from our organization work with the architects and kind of how do we make this space work best for our employees? How do we also make it work best that we can respond for the needs of the community? And I think we've got a pretty good thing put together, so.
Okay, don't run off. I think our residents would be very interested to have underscored, and you've already touched on a couple. I'm going to retouch on them and let you re-touch on them. I think they'd be interested to know, how is this going to improve public safety? How will this improve the work of our police officers? We have a phenomenal police department in this town. I think residents tell me that all the time, and as well as our fire department. So $26 million is a lot of money. And by the way, just to review for people again, sometimes the thought is, boy, that should be a referendum, and referendums are for borrowing money, for taking on debt, not necessarily for approving or disapproving a project. Nonetheless, one reason that some things in my mind rise to the level of suggesting a referendum might be, and I use the idea of a golf course 20 years ago, or somewhat superfluous, extraneous, maybe amenities. Police and fire are critical. So that's one reason this council decided to go ahead and spend the money. But here's what I'd love you to share. I jotted down, when we transfer suspects in our current facility, they're crossing paths, I think, with people that work there, with other suspects. This new arrangement will keep more security, right? When you move in a suspect and transfer, the exiting police cars getting out of our area right here is very difficult around that curve, and just sending them out. I mean, every second counts when our residents are in danger. This definitely expedites that. The covered parking you mentioned is phenomenal, and we're, I believe, the only police department in our area, in our region of all our sister cities, that does not have covered parking. And then the forensics investigation work, the added facilities, the added IT, added technology. So will you underscore or add anything to that, why this will help the job? Not just that they'll enjoy it, I appreciate that they will, and I want our police officers to be happy, but how will it make their job be done better on behalf of the residents of Eden Prairie?
Yes, definitely. I think you touched on many of them. The exit onto Mitchell Road right now, going around the blind corner and then getting onto Mitchell Road, especially in an emergency call and at heavy traffic times, can be quite tricky at times. To be able to get right out onto technology where we turn the corner and can immediately capture that Opticom, the light changing device, I think it's going to provide for a smoother in and out and less danger of cars whizzing around that corner to get out and get to emergencies. So being able to get in and out quicker, especially on inclement weather days, the officers to be ready to respond to that call, have our squads running out on the line. We're below zero. They have to run, so they're ready to go. The windows aren't frosted up. To be able to have that underground garage, we don't have to idle those cars. They can sit right on the line, get ready to go. They hop in, they go out, and there's not scraping snow off and such. So when those seconds do count, I think just the physical location, the ingress, egress, and that ability to have those vehicles covered is going to be huge. When I came to Eden Prairie 22 years ago, super impressed with the department and the technology ability and the ability to just really investigate crimes and do a high level of serving our community through crime investigation or other programs or things we can supplement to help our community. And I think that only furthers that with this facility. As we've grown over time and we need to take up more and more space, whether it's for offices, we've grown our gym facility to try and encourage health and wellness for our officers because it was quite small. We've reduced our storage to very, very little. So we're kind of trying to be creative in some of the storage aspects we have, and we are getting more and more equipment to help in our response. We've talked about our drone programs or our crime techs. So to be able to have a good storage area for that technology and that equipment, it's just going to be better maintained, and I think will help us to serve the community longer with that dollar value at a better rate. So those in combination with, as you talked about, work environment is always very important. It's difficult right now to attract and retain people in the law enforcement world, we're still very, very lucky when we're down, just a couple compared to some around us. We're fortunate. But that will be something where a positive work environment with good facilities, again, as we've always enjoyed, but to be able to have that space to grow for a little bit in the future, I think will be very important.
Excellent. And we have an amazing, positive police culture that I hear about all the time. And that's why if we have an opening, we'll sometimes get 10, 15, 20 applicants, and other departments around us have multiple openings and getting almost nobody to apply. Council, any statements or questions before we actually take a vote?
Quick one. Thank you for what our police department does do and the community-oriented ness of the police department too is sometimes unusual, but totally welcome and very valued by all the citizens in Eden Prairie. So we're glad we can upgrade getting you to what you need to be able to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, on behalf of our residents, thank you for keeping us safe. I mean, you risk your lives every day for us, so thank you.
Well, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Councilmember Freiberg or Toomey?
Well, I'm looking forward to the storage aspect.
Because?
Because I'm the president of the Eden Prairie Crime Prevention Fund.
Ah, yes.
And currently, I have a bunch of stuff in my basement that I would like to be able to put back in storage.
There's a special closet in the plan lined up for crime prevention fund storage.
Yay. Thank you.
Thanks for what you do with Eden Prairie Crime
No,
Prevention.
I enjoy working with the police department. They're a great group of people, and we are so very fortunate in our city to have them.
Okay, we're good? Council, let's go ahead and then have a motion to adopt this resolution accepting the bids and awarding the contracts.
I'll move to adopt resolution accepting bids and awarding contracts for the police department and city office remodel projects.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimous, 4-0. All right, council and/or Mr. Getchell, anything further to come before the council this evening?
Mayor, there is not.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'll move to adjourn the city council meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned.